Sorry.
Whoa, this ain't going.
Be down the bottom. And but I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight for your comments. Well, hello, Bee Nation. Welcome to the Bee Connection tonight. I hope everybody's doing great. I will say that I haven't done anything with my bees this week. Did get some fondant or sugar from Matt and Sandy. Who I found out his wife's name was Alicia. Anyway, so did get some stuff from him to put on my bees, and I'm very grateful for that. And I tell you what, he was a blessing to meet at the conference, and so many of you guys that are on here tonight, got to meet Todd. I'm gonna miss somebody tonight, but Clay, just so many beekeepers that are on the chat. Got to meet them there, and it was so nice not being a vendor because I actually got to really talk to people, and I actually got to sit down to Dodd's house, him and his wife at lunch. And come to find out that they won about everything in the honey show, it seemed like. So it was pretty amazing to be with them. Did get to see Mark Miller also, which was a pleasure. Got to talk to Mark for quite a bit. But just get to have those conversations. And, we get to do the live chats, but actually get to see people in person and get to communicate with them is so much better. And I got to go to the vendors and ask them questions and watch them squirm when I ask questions that are a little hard to answer. That's the way I feel as a vendor when I'm there. And it's nice to have Mike and Travis with us tonight with the Easy OX tablets. Having you guys with us here tonight as a vendor. So it's a pleasure to get to talk to people that are trying new things in the bee community to help our bees out. And, we're going to talk to them tonight. I will say here in the mountains of North Carolina, we've had 3 days of rain and probably 2 days of ice. And we end up with about an inch of ice when it's all said and done. So we've got power lines down everywhere. We had the Hurricane Helene, who already had half the trees leaning anyway, and this ice brought the rest of them down. So Amber's been out of school all week, and she's been excited as all get out. But anyway, how about you, Spanky? How you been off the mountain?
Well, I've been busy having to do this and that, and just trying to get through the month,
Get all that rain down there?
Yeah, we got quite a bit of rain. It finally left.
Yeah. So, JW, did you get over the jet lag of being in Missouri? I think a few people actually mentioned that you're actually from Missouri, and I found that to be pretty interesting while we was there.
That's the dirty side over there.
That just made my day, Ricky.
So JW, did you get back home and everything good? Your bees looked good?
I've been through all my hives here at my main farm. I've been through 34 of them since I got home. I tell you, I had 13 or 14 out of 30 board, or I had the candy boards on everything. I had 13 out of of 13 or 14 out of 34 here to my main farm. It was almost bone dry. I've put on all the candy boards that I had, and I've been spending the day to day making candy boards and putting on fondant. And I treated some of my out-yard hives today with Mike and Travis's Oxalic product, my vaporizer. I went that too. About half of them, I've got 20 over another yard. I got about half of them treated late this afternoon. It's getting pretty cool, so I quit on them. I'll finish them up. It's supposed to turn colder than thunder here next week. Supposed to get down to single digits tonight. So that'll be hard on the kids.
Yep, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Tom and Melissa, how did the conference go for you? I think overall, for me personally, I had a really good time. You guys had to work, so maybe you didn't get the same experience that I got, JW got, because we just kind of got to sit around and just talk and enjoy it. You guys were running around. How was the conference for you guys?
It was the worst thing ever. It was horrible. No, it was pretty amazing. It was awesome seeing so many people from the chat on there. David Hoskins, Clay, Mark Miller, you, Todd. That was his first bee conference he's ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there? Dodd House.
Jerry Irwin was there.
Yep.
Mr. JW. The Bigs.
Dirty word.
Matt and Alicia. It was. I felt like my only regret is that we were so busy. Like, I didn't have time to like really stop and talk to anybody. I think I ran past Mark Miller like 3 times, and then he finally just grabs me. He's like, "You're not walking past me again." Without saying hi. I'm like, "Well, I waved."
Hey,
but
Mark,
that's probably my only regret of the whole thing, is just not having that time, like you said, to have real conversations. And even like the after dinner that y'all well, I don't know that you went, Ricky, but left, right? Because Amber had something.
Yeah, Amber had a volleyball match.
Yeah. So even the after dinner, like, because we had obligations for a speaker dinner, so we didn't get to the after dinner with everybody until like 9:30. And by then, Dodd House had left. Calvin Shaw was there. We met him for the first time. I know he kind of stays in the background, he said. We got to see him for just a few minutes, but Calvin and Dodd House and the Bigs had already left by the time we got there. But it was still nice that we got to do that. And then we had a small, went out to breakfast with Todd and Matt and Brian, and who else went to breakfast? Mark went to breakfast with us, and JW. So that was nice being able to do that the next morning, even though we were absolutely exhausted and we're like, oh my gosh, we have to get up early and drive all the way out there for breakfast.
I told JW that morning, I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, I almost always beat my alarm up in the morning. I just set it, depending on what time I have to get up or where I'm going and what I'm doing.
He means he beats waking up before the alarm goes off, not physically beating up his alarm.
I don't. It's not like that. But I'm telling you, that alarm woke me up on Sunday morning. And it wasn't even early. I think it was like, I don't even remember, 6:30 or something.
6:30 or 7, something like that. Yeah.
It actually got oh, hey, Mr. Calvin Shaw is in here too.
There he is. Yep. Hi, Mr. Shaw.
So I briefly got to meet him when we went out Saturday night. We didn't get there. Wife had already left, and there was a few other folks that were there already had left at that point in time, unfortunately. But we were still trying to entertain our guests and make sure that we gave them the experience they deserved. So we had a really good meal at the conference center hotel that they brought out to us. It was a little smaller, kind of more intimate type, dinner where we could just kind of chat and there wasn't so much hustle and bustle going on. But that was kind of fun just to kind of wind down. But I think everybody was pretty tired by the end of that day anyway, so, but it was good. I mean, and
then we left the speaker dinner to go out to the car, to go to the restaurant to meet everybody. And our battery is completely dead.
Yeah.
So luckily, one of the, our club members that we're really good friends with was there with us. So he had to take Tom to the auto parts store to get a new battery, come back to the hotel, put the battery in, and then we went to the restaurant.
So JW, you weren't the only person to have a car issue. You know, we did too. Like I said, we were trying to leave as soon as we were done with entertaining folks. We're like, okay, we're going to take off. I already had the car loaded and ready to go. And I went to hit the push to start button on Melissa's Explorer. And that battery in there was not that old. Ford only replaced it a couple of years ago. And I hit the button and nothing. It clicked and the lights came on. So I went in the back to try to find, I keep a little jumper box thing in there. You know, I was keeping in every car. And it's been a long time since I checked it, and it didn't have any juice in it. But fortunately, Ken was close by. We got it rectified very, very quickly, and we were able to make it over there and kind of enjoy the last part of everyone's company. And that was good fun. So all in all, Melissa and I had a really good time.
Oh yeah,
it was a very busy weekend, but it was well worth the effort that we put into it all year. I really, truly hope that everybody that did come did get the best experience that we could possibly offer to them. If you have any complaints, don't tell me, tell her.
No.
she's the complaint department.
No. Well, we ended up with 309 attendees.
Yep.
The experience side did sell out. So
yeah, let's see. We figured up too. By the time we figured all the attendees, the board members, the vendors, and everybody was with them, as well as all the Honey Show staff, we think we had somewhere about 375 people there in attendance that day. So,
and I will say, and I'm going to talk to Cayman about this, is that ice cream y'all give about, almost next to the end. He's got to step his game up and like do some kind of ice cream or something more special than just donuts and stuff. He needs to. I think ice cream, is
that ice cream was good. So that is Joffrey's, and it's a Missouri company. It's a honey ice cream, and they make just a ton of different flavors, but it's so good.
It's so good. Yeah.
You'd be surprised when you're planning a conference, you don't think about all those small details. So like when you're there and you get that little thing of ice cream, or you get breakfast in the morning there, whatever it might be, by the time you take that little bit of cost and you multiply it over 300 and something people,
it adds up.
You'd be surprised at how much that stuff adds up. Yeah. I mean, we really didn't have too many people complain about the ticket price because we tried to keep it down. And obviously, being a non-for-profit, we're there for the people. We don't have to turn a profit, but we also can't lose money either. But all in all, we were still going over our figures and trying to finalize everything up. But regardless, by the time you really start thinking about all those little details and stuff, you get several $100 worth of ice cream just for everybody to get one cup, and things like that.
Well,
so
the lanyards, the printing, the programs, like it all just, it adds up quickly, and you don't realize, like, I know some people, I didn't hear anybody complain about the cost of ours, but I know there's been other conferences I'd seen people complain about the cost. I know people complained about the cost of Cayman's, which makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, because that is just huge. But I think that they don't step back and think about everything that has to go into financially to put that on. I mean, the space alone is a huge chunk of change. And then you start adding food and lanyards and this and that, and it all just
swag bags.
Everything. And the Honey Show too, because you have to pay all the speakers, because the Honey Show, you have to pay for the judges, for their hotel stays, for their lodging, all that. It quickly adds up. People just don't realize. You could have pitched a ride with Greg.
That's right, Brian.
I don't want to hear
I can't help it. Greg didn't bring you, Brian. I'm sorry.
Next year, Brian.
I will say I did get one of your discs, Brian. So I'm going to show that on some of my horizontal lives. So that's awesome.
But yeah, overall though, it was a great experience. We're already brainstorming who to bring in for next year. So,
and then you look at the time that you put in to actually bring all this out, because you guys are like weeks, of putting this together, and energy, and so many people trying to do it. You don't look at that cost whatsoever. So.
It was probably about 10 months of planning.
Yeah. Because we basically started in March or April last year, just touring facilities to find the facility that we wanted to use. And then after that, you know, you don't put as much time in it then, but there's still time because you find the facility. Well, then you have to work on the menu. Oh, well, then you have to work on the vendors and the speakers before they get booked up. And then after that, like it's really those last, you know, you're still doing stuff off and on in that time, but those last like 4 months is like crunch time. Like it really, because there's just a lot of back and forth with vendors, with speakers. You know, I need this paperwork. I need that paperwork. You didn't fill this out. What do you want for lunch? What do you want for dinner? You know, there's just a lot of back and forth, and then just doing the layout and making sure
there's
stuffing the bags. Like
there's a lot of time going back and forth with vendors and or speakers and things like that. So I mean, just like for example, like if you send out a deadline for a vendor or speaker to get you back the information that you have to have for a deadline, and they don't do it, that requires a few more emails back and forth. And if you have to do that 16, 17, 18, 19 times, that can get to be a lot. I mean, it really can. Most everybody did a pretty good job. There was a couple people that finally I said, look, you have 48 hours to get back to me on this information or the slot's gone. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, I mean, I can't keep pushing this out. And I'll tell you like Melissa said, probably the last couple months, I mean, we were spending a lot, like a full-time job, a lot of time on getting some of the stuff, details and stuff done. So I haven't even gotten anything done around my house this winter as far as prepping much stuff. And I probably have about the rest.
The basement cleaned.
That's not good. That's not good. I have a lot more. Speaking of vendors, Tom, let's talk to our vendors real quick, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the conference.
Absolutely.
Again. But I really want to talk to Mike and Travis. Let them talk a little bit about their product, and if you guys, Tom and Melissa, want to just kind of start them off with some questions, and then we'll just kind of chime in as we go along here. Okay.
Well, the first thing that I would like to ask Mike and Travis, I already know the answer to this, but I think that so many people don't know the answer to this. Mike kind of clued me in, and Mike and I have had a lot of really good conversations about oxalic acid that I never realized a lot of different things about as far as that goes. And I know a little bit as far as herbicide, pesticide stuff because I carry a license for my landscaping company, so I know a few details about that. But basically, all in all, Mike and Travis, I'd like to hear you guys start off with telling us about if people want to do this legally, oxalic acid, about your product, what you guys have licensed in all the states that you're in and what that takes, and then maybe kind of move forward from there, because I think that's an important detail to start with. You guys are muted, by the way. You're muted.
Yeah. Their mic's muted, I think.
Your microphone is muted on the thing.
I think, let's see. No, it's muted on their side.
Yep.
There we go.
Well,
There you go.
yep. Appreciate Ricky. Appreciate Melissa having us on this evening. To answer your question, you know, the EPA registrations that we got to go through, you know, to bring a product to market like this it was about an 18-month procedure. Just getting all the paperwork filed and getting everything, you know, registered. And, you know, we didn't know the difference either back, you know, years ago when oxalic acid first became a treatment for the varroa mite. So, you know, we got to looking online and reading about it. And, you know, if you wanted a legal product to treat your bees, there was only one company that was registered in the United States, and they kind of had the market cornered, and the price of their product was, I mean, we were beekeepers, and, you know, it was like, you know, what beekeepers can afford to spend, you know, $60 for a very small treatment. And, you know, so the more we got to looking into it, and then, you know, Dad, we kind of ran across the tablets, and the tablets was kind of our main, you know, product at the time. We was kind of like, we kind of made him for himself because you couldn't get them here in the United States. And so we started making them. We found that we got a press, and a little tabletop press, and and started making some for himself to try and use those. And then he thought, people would probably really like these being pre-measured 1 gram tablet. You don't have to carry around your oxalic acid. You can just have a fanny pack of tablets or whatever, and your vaporizer, and drop them in, and you're just running and gunning. And so then we got to looking at the legal, making it legal, and was like, holy moly, there's a lot to this. And so we had to get a consultant that kind of speak the EPA language and kind of, guided us through the how to fill the paperwork out, how to apply. And then when the EPA started requesting all these studies and all the, they had all the questions about, the product, and we got through that. And then they come down and said, all right, we need suppliers that's going to supply you with oxalic acid. So we turned in over 40 companies to supply oxalic acid to the EPA, and 3 companies the EPA approved because of the way oxalic acid is produced, the impurities that are in it. They basically said this is the only oxalic acid that you can use to vaporize into a bee colony, that's going to create a honey that's something's a consumable. And, there can't be certain impurities in that oxalic acid, or, you can't put it in a beehive if you're going to sell your, honey or honeycomb or even wax. It's right on the EPA's website. Anything that you treat, if you treat your honeybees with an illegal oxalic acid product, it's supposed to be destroyed. You're not even allowed to sell it, or you can use it for personal use. But I mean, it's pretty, but it's never been enforced.
Right.
They're not coming around knocking on your door and
Right.
And checking you out. But that's the law, and and there's people out there that want the best product for their bees, want to know that they're putting something in their hive that's guaranteed, sure to not have any impurities or anything that's going to hurt the bees or the honey.
Heavy metals is the big thing.
So, we pushed through the paperwork, and about 18 months later, we was actually going for 3 grams, because we know that 4 grams is kind of the magic number when it comes to treating, a bee, a dosage. And they came back to us and said, we'll approve you for 2 grams right now and give you your label, or, you can keep pushing and filing and doing all the paperwork and try to, drag it out and get the 3 grams. We said, it's been 18 months. We'll take the 2 grams right now. That's at least a gram better than what the legal label was before. And we went ahead and, we're appealing and trying to get it. Because now we're going to try to go to 4. Since we got it to 2, we just didn't feel like it would go from 1 to 4. So now that we got it at 2, we're going to try to get it to 4 eventually. There's a lot of data out there with,
So Travis, I want to stop you just for 1 minute. So just for reference, every time you guys make changes to this stuff, or every time you guys have to fill out more paperwork or go to this costs money.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is not something that's free. So, when we talk about this and talk about the legal way to do something, and you're talking about, you need to know exactly what's in this, not just the oxalic acid, but like Mike said, the heavy metals or the binders that are in there, because those could potentially sublimate and also make its way into the honey too.
Right.
So we're not really worried about just the oxalic acid itself. We're worried about what other impurities are in there that could potentially contaminate or cause a synergistic effect within the colony, correct?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Because see, wood bleaches and industrial cleaners, they don't care what the impurities are in them, because they're not meant to be vaporized into a beehive. They're a cleaner.
Yeah.
So the impurities that's in them, they have, there's all kinds of different things, but
It could be in there.
that could be in there. But it's not. It doesn't matter, because it's not meant for honeybees. And I see the question up there about the OA being, there is different OAs. A lot of the stuff you see sold on Amazon, is oxalic acid and hydrous.
And hydrous.
And hydrous has never been tested or used on honeybees. Only oxalic acid dehydrate was what the EPA originally went through with all their testing and what, when it came over from Europe, because, over in Europe, Canada, they were some of the first, countries to use oxalic acid. And then when that came to the United States, it was oxalic acid dehydrate that was, that had been used and was kind of proven. It was kind of proven as the, what to use on bees. So there is difference in OAs between just the anhydrous and the dehydrate. And then, of course, there's differences in, all oxalic acid. You look at it and you'll say, well, this oxalic acid I see is 99.9 or 99.8. They're all oxalic acid. Even our oxalic acid, what we start with is 99.8, but it's the impurities, that point, whatever, that's the difference. And that's what could potentially harm, the honeybees or leave something in your comb or honey that you don't want there. So, so there is a difference in OAs, and we just wanted to, bring something to market that was legal, labeled product, and to get the cost down, to where beekeepers can afford it and want to use a legal, product. And, like our 400 gram bag of powder, I mean, that's 100 treatments of 4 grams, retails for $23.95. So, basically 24 cents a hive, you can treat, 100 hives with that bag of OA. So, I mean, it's just.
There isn't another treatment that I'm aware of on the market right now that you can, per hive, only cost 24 cents per treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not aware of it. Now, we all realize that maybe we can't use it 12 months out of the year and have 100% efficacy with that,
Right.
But it does have its place too. So, I mean, I've said this before to Mike, Travis, both of you guys, and said, this is honestly, it's probably my favorite treatment in there, because we also understand that oxalic acid itself, when it is pure, does not or leaves a residue in there that only lasts like less than 24 hours. I think they tested combs over 24 hours, and there was no traces left of it whatsoever.
No trace in your honey bees. You can treat with the honey supers on.
Yep.
There's nothing left in your wax forever like some things are. One thing I wanted to mention was when we got our suppliers that we get our oxalic acid from, they also had to provide a certificate of analysis. And that analysis tells you what all the impurities are in that oxalic acid, if any. And the way they got that COA, the way that company created that certificate of analysis is also scrutinized by the EPA. With today's computers, if you challenge a company to, hey, let me see a certificate of analysis, maybe they got a computer program, they can go print one. Our companies have to show how they got it. They want to know what kind of equipment they use to get those results, how they're derived, what's everything about it. They want to know exactly what's in that oxalic acid from day it was made. And we have to keep that on file. If you look on our packages, you'll see a lot number and a manufacturing date, and every ounce of oxalic acid that leaves our premises is tied to a certificate of analysis that has been okayed by the EPA. I mean, they're serious about it. It's got to, all of our T's got to be crossed, our I's got to be dotted with this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important that we understand, I mean, for instance, like right now, everybody's hearing the biggest, thing on the news when it comes to honeybees is the losses that they're experiencing. Some people are experiencing 100% losses. And this is just not on a colony or on colonies of backyard beekeepers and small time operators. So you probably wouldn't hear much chatter from that, because you could probably easily dismiss it off as poor management or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that every commercial operator has the best management skills, but they also have a lot of money at stake that they potentially lose. So they have a very large investment in making certain that those honeybees survive and thrive, because without them, they're not going to produce them any money. So, the fact still remains here is that I think it's probably really important, like everything that you guys are following through on and all that paperwork, because the more paperwork, the more money something costs. I don't care, because it's labor, it's time, it's labor, and having all that accountability, I guess, is what it boils down to, helps us to understand that there are different methods in place to make certain that what it is that we're putting into our colonies that will affect our bees, will affect the honey that we're eating, ultimately has something tied to it. So there's accountability behind it. Again, we're seeing the colony losses that we're experiencing now, and we have to figure out better ways to do things and different treatments that don't persist in the comb. And this right here is, in my opinion, is one of them.
Yeah, I think that, oxalic acid, I mean, yeah, we got a product and we sell it, and we might be kind of biased, but even before we did what we, are doing, oxalic acid, used with the right regimen, the right treatment cycle with it. I mean, that's all that we use on our bees, and use that regimen. And it's just, you treat in the fall, your brood cycle, basically, get all your mites, pretty well knocked down and killed. Let your queen make good, healthy winter bees. And then we'll go back out in December, January, one day a month that it gets up around 45, 50 degrees. The bees break cluster, go out there and hit them again just to kill any mites that they might have picked up between the last time you treated them and, in December. Get those knocked down, and you pretty much kill them all, because we're broodless here where we are normally by that time of year. Then maybe go out and hit them again, and once in January, maybe even again, early, like this month, early February. Well, we can do it in the middle of February this year because it's pretty cold out here. But, as soon as they break a cluster, go out and hit them again. Then, when spring comes and they start laying their, growing their bees, they're going to be healthy and strong, and let them flourish, and
Extended strips.
and then and then we're pushing. We're going to try to get our extended release product approved here, and then that, I think, is something that you can throw on in early spring, maybe even when you put your super on, put your strips in, and let those strips carry you through your summer, your honey flow, and then in the fall you just basically start all over again, and there's no signs of mites becoming resistant the way it works, and it's chemical makeup. I don't think it's possible the way the mites, or the mites anatomy is. So,
and it's found in nature. It's already in your hive before you ever treat it anyway, from what I've read. It's just in your bees are bringing in oxalic acid into the hive, very small amounts, but there are certain plants and flowers, and maybe in pollen, and even propolis that has oxalic acid. We don't know, but it is found in hives when none's ever been put in artificial or manually.
Mm-hmm.
Already there.
Yes.
So we don't think mites will obtain resistance to it. Even though we do put that on our package for mite resistance, you should rotate your treatments.
That's kind of one of those red tape things they make you put on there. But,
right.
And back to, you was talking about the cost, we try to get it down, and I would love to compete with the wood bleaches, and, I'd like to have no reason whatsoever for everybody to use illegal oxalic acid. I'd love to be able to compete with the store, the hardware store bleach. But, when you talk about cost, the EPA registration and the consultant fees, that part of it, I mean,
state registration.
You're just with the federal part, you're pushing over $100,000, and then the state annually, so every year you have to pay we're registered in 48 states. And that's, depending on, because some states are 2-year registration. So depending on the year, it's, 18 to $22,000 that you're paying just for, state registration. So,
Mhm.
there was a way to get them to, waive some of those fees. We put it right back to the beekeeper, because we're beekeepers and we did it for beekeepers. It's pretty much our thing. We're
Well,
just,
and let's be honest too. If everybody was buying Easy Ox, the legal form of it, and you guys are selling a large quantity of it, it's realistic to say too that the more manufacturing you do, potentially the lower you can bring the cost down in that, right? So if people start actually focusing on the guys that are doing the legwork and trying to do this legally, for one, but I mean, not just legally, but, all the measures that are behind that for accountability, knowing that there's not some trash that's put in there that you may end up putting in your mouth, not talking about the oxalic acid, but any of the impurities that are in there that you're actually eating yourself. That in reality, we probably really don't know the extent of it. Maybe it's not a big deal. I mean, maybe it is, so, I've heard a couple of people say, well, how can we do, what can they do to get the cost down? Start supporting them. I mean, in my opinion, that's one way.
That helps. And, and I think, it's coming around. The more people, that, just like this, more people it's hearing about it, for one, but two, just like JW there said, so, he just used some of our product. We're going to, we let our product speak for itself too. Cause you won't see the vaporizers get gummed up or, any, junk in there from the, Apiboxal. If you use that, or even some of the Amazon, they would leave all kinds of different residues in your vaporizer. Apiboxal, they put glucose in theirs, and that leaves a caramel, like a gummy brown caramel crystallization, in your vaporizer if you use theirs. So when we was down at Nobby and different places, we've had so many people come up to us and, just ranting and raving about how well our product worked, how clean it, vaporized. And, to me, that's where it's at. Let the product speak for itself. But the more people that start using it and talking about it, and like I said, at 24 cents, for a 4-gram treatment, that's pretty cheap in itself. But let it speak for itself, and get it out there. And I think more and more people's picking it up.
Well, I know firsthand what you're talking about there, Travis. And you are not wrong. So before I realized some of this information, before we had chatted and talked, I was using some of that wood bleach off of Amazon, thinking it's the same. And I can tell you for a fact that the new oxalic acid vaporizer that I had got, so I have 2 of them now, both compact units. The one that I've been running your guys' stuff through doesn't have any residue on it whatsoever. And I probably ran 100 and something. Oh gosh.
Well, at least 2 bags.
Yeah. What's that? 800 grams or so of your product through there. And there isn't any residue on it. Now there is residue on the one I've had for the last year because I did have some of that. And it probably is that glucose leaving that sticky brown caramely substance on there. And who knows what else is in there besides glucose.
Yeah.
So,
So, just like that, Tom, I appreciate that, that kind of speaks, like I was saying, let that product, let the people use it and kind of get that same experience. And, I think the product kind of sell itself once we get it into people's hands and they, find out about it. I seen that question on there. They asked about, will OA hurt the queen or whatever? We have no signs of that. And back when we was actually doing our testing, especially with the tablets, because our tablets, we have to put, there's an inert binder in our powder to make the tablet. It's an EPA food grade binder. It's something that's found in your vitamins and, any kind of pill that you would take. It's a binder that's used in all that. When vaporized, it's 100% organic. But when we was testing that, and I was like, you don't know what that vaporizing something other than oxalic acid, what's that going to do to bees? Mm-hmm. So we had a test hive that we tested with throughout our testing. And we actually treated one hive. Everybody plug your ears that might, not want to hear us, but we tested a hive with 8 grams every day. Every single day, we hit them with 8 grams for 3 weeks to try to see if we could actually kill the bees, change the queen's laying pattern, see what would happen, just in case somebody used our product and, did something like that. And then they say, hey, your product killed my bees. I wanted to know myself firsthand. And that hive actually swarmed 3 times. That was one of the strongest hives I've ever seen.
But what was the mite count?
Oh yeah, they was 0.
Yeah. 8 grams every day. Yep.
Yeah,
Every day.
8 grams every day.
For 3 weeks.
And then
That was in late February, early March, and I got sick that spring, and I got behind on my bees, and then when I got to that, when I drove into that place, my bee they were hanging in a tree, a willow tree, great big swarm, and I thought that can't be, and I went, and my mark queen was gone, and she was in that swarm.
Yeah, that was unreal.
It didn't hurt her pattern was wall to wall.
Yeah. David mentioned here how many use it for swarms, and I will say I use OA sometimes in the middle of summer for us here in the mountains. In about July, we hit a dearth. You'll see the bees, they're going up and down on the hives. They ain't really got much to do. To do a split, getting ready for the winter, you take that split out, take that queen out, just give her some empty frames, and then wait about a week for that, your bees to hatch out. Hit that with OA. Sometimes when I catch a swarm, I'll give them a couple of days. I hit them with OA, and I tell you what, that hive of the swarm, you hit that with that OA, it seems like if they did have any mites, they don't have it, and they just blow up.
Yeah.
So I think the OA is good for swarms.
I tell you, what I did, like when I get my honey off, a lot of times, people treat when they get their honey off, they'll treat with formic or something. And I found that if I treat with oxalic acid like I do, I can actually feed the bees, give them a pollen patty even, because here in we've got no flow at all in August here in Ohio where I'm at. So I'll give them a pollen patty and some sugar water, some 1-to-1, and I'll have them make me a couple boxes of wax. I'll have them draw me some supers for the next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oxalic acid ain't going to slow them down.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to hurt them. Like a lot of your treatments will knock them back. The queen will quit laying some for you. May not stop her completely, but it's going to cut your brood down a little bit. But you want them to build you some wax, they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you get your honey off. If you need wax, it's a good way to get some real quick and still treat your bees.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was doing that. We made splits this year. I was doing
all of our cutouts
and cutouts. I started zapping them with oxalic acid right then and there. And I've even heard some people talk about if you have any concerns about now I would probably be a little cautious to do this, but with the package. But if you actually installed a package, released the queen, she got accepted, started laying, and right before that, those eggs or that larvae starts to get capped, hit them with oxalic acid.
Oh yeah.
Probably doing it too early. You don't want to cause them to ball that queen or do something weird, because really that's not really hurt their queen. So you don't want to mess with that too much. But I would say, again, once the acceptance is done, she's laying, the hive starts to become cohesive at that point, hit them with oxalic acid before they cap it. And I mean, at what, 98+% efficacy?
Same with the swarm. You catch a swarm, do the same thing.
Yep, 100%.
Put them in a box, give them a few days to get her to start laying, hit them. That way they're not spreading any mites into your bees.
Right.
So Vincent has a question here also. He says, my vaporizer tip clogs a lot. Is that from too much moisture, or is there, is it the OA I'm using?
Need to know what kind of vaporizer is it?
Yeah, that's the question right there, Vincent. It's probably what vaporizer do you have?
It would seem like it may be the type of oxalic acid he's using too. If you were
It could be, but most of the time it's the vaporizer.
Yeah.
It's if it's a battery unit, it's needs turned up or something. The readout, it's not set high enough or something like that. Or I've seen some vaporizers have too long a tube on them.
Yeah.
The tubes, some of them got a tube that long. There's no way that's going to work. You have to cut it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Them long, unless you can get an insulator for them too. They
Just
make
the
an
Robbie
insulator.
one, so it's probably what he's using.
Yeah.
The battery powered one, is it a battery power?
I'm wondering if you're using an oxalic acid that has too much glucose in it, because I've experienced that a little bit before, not cleaning mine out
Well, that'll plug them up. Yeah.
and using that'll happen.
Weak batteries can cause that, someone said.
Yeah, it sounds
Well, because
like,
you
I mean, if he's using Larabi's, usually
It shouldn't.
it would be, I'd say it either has something to do with the battery, if it's a battery power not being hot enough, or
Still cranked up.
He said it's a corded version.
the corded version.
It probably just needs cranked up. It's probably the first unit that he made. That first one, I think the I'm not sure where the nozzle comes out. One comes out the bottom, one comes out the top on those early ones that Larabi had. There is a conversion kit for it.
Yeah.
That fixes that problem.
I
But
will
you
say on my
might be able
first,
to crank it up a little bit, make it work too.
my first Larabi's vaporizer, I hit it with a thermal gun and actually checked the temperature of what it was actually reading and what the bowl was actually getting to, and they were off by about 100 degrees. So
That'd do it.
Yeah, I would check your what that bowl's getting to see exactly what your actually output is, and I can't remember if it was too cold or too hot.
Yeah, because what
But I
happens
changed
is that stem cools down too quick, and it actually starts crystallizing before it gets out of the out of the tube. And that kind of plugs it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I would even suggest maybe Vincent to call Rob and to ask
Yeah,
him.
see the difference in those? One's at the top, one's at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I think that one on the right is the latest version, I believe.
Yeah, he said
Okay.
his is the one with the tip on the bottom.
So that should be the latest one.
Yeah. But there's a kit for that thing to resolve a lot of problems.
You know,
But
the
I-
only other thing I noticed before that I had any kind of problem with clogging was, and this was not with your guys' oxalic acid. This was with the Larabi's battery-powered compact unit and newer batteries. So I feel certain that it probably wasn't a heating issue, but I was treating with oxalic acid when it was raining, and for the most part and by and large, I kept my container covered. But every time you'd open it, you might get a couple raindrops in there. I'm sure the moisture content got a little bit higher than it should have been. And I was noticing some clogging on that. I had to stick something in there and kind of open it up a little bit. So when it was raining and there was a lot of moisture in the air, I was experiencing a little bit of problem. Again, this was not with the Easy Ox powder. This was a different brand of stuff. So maybe by too much moisture in there could cause that.
Well, I think if you put a lot of moisture in it, it would just be a lot of steam mixed in with your vaporizing.
Okay.
You wouldn't just be supplementing your oxalic acid. You would be steaming a lot of water vapor in there too.
Which would be a bad idea in the wintertime, right?
Well,
could be steaming and putting some moisture in the hive. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you're looking for the oxalic acid sublimation, not a
I think you'd have more problems with it being too dry than you would being too wet. But
Okay.
neither one would be good, if you know what I mean. You want it to be as near as what oxalic acid should be, about 24% moisture, 24% moisture. That's oxalic acid dehydrate. That's what it is. If you go anhydrous, there is no moisture. And it doesn't. Your vaporizer is not going to work the way it's.
I lost her sound.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mike,
okay.
we're not able to hear you. I think you lost your sound.
We lost your sound, fellas.
Somehow it got shut off. I don't
That
know.
on thing here.
There you go.
We got you.
Maybe he was talking too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
We got you back, fellas.
I caught it from Tom. If it's
That's what Melissa does.
Hey, all right.
But I was just saying that oxalic acid dehydrate has moisture in it, 20 to 24%. I think if you like anhydrous, it's not gonna sublimate right to do what it's supposed to do in a hive. If it was too wet, I don't know what the situation would be. You'd have a lot of steam in there. Besides, I think when that steam got away, you'd still sublimate the oxalic acid, right?
Okay.
I'm not sure. But as far as plugging up the nozzle on your vaporizer, if it's bad oxalic acid, I'm sure it would do that. Even a good registered oxyboxyl, well, I know will do that. If you don't clean your bowl out, it will happen. But if there's other junk that we've seen in some oxalic acids, it could plug up a lot of things.
Mhm.
There's almost like rocks in it sometimes, and there are all kinds of junk. I don't even know what it is, but if you have a good clean oxalic acid like ours, I don't think it's the oxalic acid it's plugging up. Either there's something wrong with the vaporizer, the temperature's not high enough, the nozzle's too long, the battery's weak. It's something more or less that.
Okay.
So Gary's asking. We have
This is a good question
Okay.
here.
Our products, our tablets, I think our products, after you open them, it's a good 2 years. The tablets, I would say it's probably 5 years. I don't know, but the tablets, I've got tablets that I made or tabletop machine, gee whiz now, 3 or 4 years ago. They still vaporize great.
Mhm.
I don't sell them, but they're actually a different die size than we use for our commercial ones. And the powder's the same way. If you open a bag, it's good for at least 2 more years after you open it. The date on the bags are the manufactured date. So you can figure good 2 years from there. Now, if you're good with your oxalic acid, when you open it and close it, when you're done using it, you get what you need out, close it, seal it up, try to squeeze the air out of it, keep it sealed, keep it in a cool place. It'll last a long, long, long time.
Mhm.
Doesn't really
But
have
if you're
a-
a guy like some guys do, they just throw it in the back of the buggy and it bounces around back there in the hot sun.
It
And
doesn't really have a so-called shelf life. The only thing that can really happen, like, I know you can't hear it on the thing, but like if you squeeze one of our bags, it almost feels like it's snow. You can kind of
Mhm.
like wet
like
snow,
a pack in there.
crunches
Yep.
like.
And so, opening and closing these bags over the years, so you didn't use it all, at one go or a couple goes, and you didn't get it sealed good and it starts getting dry and it feels like sand. It's not crunching. You can actually take a tablespoon of water or just a cap off
Just
of
take the cap full at a
a
time.
bottle of water and put in there, seal it up, and then just kind of massage it a little bit. And it'll absorb that moisture, and then you'll get your
Just do one cap at a time until
You'll-
you get it where you want it.
You'll get that,
Don't put a bunch of water in it. Just a little bit at a time.
but it'll last. There's really, there's really no shelf life, so to say, on the OA.
Yeah.
And then we've had a lot of people asking, just to put this out there, we've had a lot of people asking for larger quantities. So we're going to start, we're working on getting our label. We're going to get our label made for these, and we're going to start.
There you go.
Yep.
They're muted.
We
Somebody.
lost you guys again. No sound.
Keep shutting off.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we
But
go.
anyway, we're going to have a 5-pound tub that seals up. See that black ring in there? It seals up. It's a locking click lid, and we're gonna start selling it in 5-pound quantities. just for, larger scales, or somebody that's got one, if you in the bag we sell, you got 100 treatments at 4 grams. So, 5 pound bag, you'd have 500 treatments basically.
More than that.
And
I think it's 700.
yeah, I'm just kind of, because our 400 gram bag, that's just barely under a pound. We kind of did that when we did it for shipping purposes at the time. If it was less than a pound, it shipped a little bit cheaper.
Mhm.
They've kind of changed that since then, so that doesn't really matter anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
the tubs, we're going to do a 5-pound tub, and that'll kind of help out. We've had a lot of people asking for that, to be able to get it larger quantities.
Gary says under there, he says feeder bucket, LOL. But in all reality, Mike, show the bottom of that lid again. You showed earlier the bottom of that lid.
Yeah. It's
Actually
actually got it's got a little thing here you squeeze to unlock it.
Yep.
To get it. If I can get it.
I think it's childproof.
Childproof too.
That's
Yeah.
why Mike can't get it, guys. It's childproof.
There it goes. If you hear it, it ratchets when you put it on. It kind of ratchets. Hear it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when
And then it's on there.
it's sealed, you drop it, it's not going to pop open or nothing.
But yeah, I agree. It'd be a good feeder bucket after you got done.
Then
And
you
those
just
are,
squeeze this little red thing here, and it'll open.
I noticed there was a black seal in the rim of that lid too,
Right.
that people may not have picked up on.
Yep, it's a gasket. This thing's got all kind of good things about it.
Mm-hmm.
How it seals up. It's called a latch something.
they're made here in the United States too.
Yep.
We just had a company over in
Indiana, it's a veteran owned company like we are.
Indiana. Yeah,
And that's who I think we're going to be dealing with to get them.
they're a little more expensive, but we'd rather support.
If you're going to buy 5 pounds, you want to keep it in good shape. It should stay good shape in that bucket.
Yeah.
Well, you can look at it this way too, by the fact that you guys are sourcing locally here in the United States.
Yeah.
If things ever got weird again, like they did in 2000, and you couldn't source anything from overseas, 2020, forgive me, 2020 with the whole COVID crisis thing, and
Right.
you couldn't
Yeah.
get anything from overseas, at least to be more likely you can get stuff from here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our little
Brian wants a
packages.
bucket of tablets.
Excuse me?
Brian wants a bucket of tablets.
Bucket
Yeah.
of tablets.
That'd hold a few. But we got 100 count now. We got 50 and 100 count in these in our package of tablets. And these bags are made in Michigan by a small company.
Cool.
Well, I'm anxious for you guys to come out with that bucket that you come out with. We already talked about that. but
Yeah.
You put me in your list when that bucket comes
Yeah.
available. Hit me up.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll hopefully it won't be too long. We had a company send us a PDF Adobe thing for laying the label out so they can kind of get it to fit the bucket. And,
Yeah, they got to get this label
the label's got to be on the
exactly
bucket.
like
so,
this on that bucket.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get that designed and get that on there. But hopefully we can kind of keep it the same, kind of like our bag. I'd like to see it match the bag,
Yeah.
and then get it to wrap around there. I think we can get it to fit okay. So I think it's going to work. But
Hey, you guys also have to keep that USA flag on there. That's a must.
Oh, yeah. We're going to try to do that.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, I think this lid, instead of white, it'll be blue.
Nice. That'll be
'cause
awesome.
it comes in red, white, and blue lids. The buckets are all white.
Okay.
We'll probably get a blue lid and get the flag, keep some of the flag on our label going
Yes,
around
sir.
the sides.
Now, I think we were talking earlier, and I don't know if we can talk about this or not. And if we can't, just ignore my question. But was there a different product you guys are coming out with this year, or a different way to use that?
Yeah, extended release strips.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
we're working on it. We got.
We got the equipment to make it.
Yeah. So once we get we got, I forget how many different medias down there, what we're going to use potentially, because we don't want to do the same as the Vrox hand strips. I don't know if anybody's used those yet, but the way the Roxanne strips kind of fold and go down over your frame,
Mm-hmm.
you look at some pictures and stuff. There's some kind of they kind of abandoned the comb underneath those Roxanne strips. So ours is going to be more of a on top of the frame, kind of, if anybody's familiar with like the Randy Oliver,
Greg Rogers.
towel style pads on the top of the frames. I think we're gonna kind of make our product similar to those studies and findings. We think that they actually work better. You get a little bit better treatment that way, and you don't get that comb. You don't get the bees abandoning any comb and utilizing all the frames. So, but hopefully, since we've got all of our product, like our TGAI, our main active ingredient, oxalic acid, when we registered our powder and our tablets, we registered our oxalic acid.
Yeah.
So
The
now
TGAI, we registered that, even though it's not a product, we registered it. So now we can use it to make other products and not have to go through that 18-month thing. We can do it in 4 months. From the day we submit, we can have it in 4 months and a little cheaper with the EPA.
We'll still have our state.
We still have to do all the state registrations.
Still costs us another $20,000 for the state registrations.
Yeah,
but
that's the problem.
That's the problem. Before you sell the first daggone pack of strips, we're gonna have $20,000 tied up just in the state registrations. In some, states, and some people's not going to know about it. So we might have a $20,000 a year registrations that sell, maybe a couple hundred products, maybe, you know what I mean? So
this is what I need to challenge everybody to do. Go to these guys. They have plenty of retailers. Buy the product they have out now so that they can get the other stuff done. So I can use that as soon as I get my honey supers pulled, and I can put this on there. Do my treatments and drop this on. So I'm anxious to use that too, honestly, because Melissa and I were actually talking last year about using that Roxanne product. And I kind of shied away from it first because I wanted to see what it looked like after a year under the belt, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, but I'll tell you, I was really interested to see the Greg Rogers research. He even dials it down as to where he put the pads inside the colony, and it made a difference. So if anybody hasn't seen that information, I think they can even get that off of Bob Benny's channel.
He cut them into 4 instead of 2.
Yep.
Well, he did both. And the 4 worked better.
That's right.
So what ours will be.
Yeah.
Right?
So we'll have it'll be 4 pads per box.
Yeah.
And I was going to say so. We was talking about the Roxanne, the cost. I mean, if you looked at the 60 pack of strips of Roxanne, you're looking at like $90.
No way.
$90. I mean, and that's the other, that's just another reason that we want to just bring another,
make it affordable.
Yeah, hold them accountable and make it affordable, and because I'm thinking, we'll probably be at like 50 some dollar. We'll probably be almost half that price.
I would say, at least
half that price, just off of some of the numbers we've been running on materials and some of the stuff and labels and packaging and all that. So, but just keep bringing affordable registered products to market. That's our goal.
Yeah. Well, and if we want to keep having these great products delivered by Americans, I mean, we're going to have to start doing our due diligence as consumers, though, too. And not trying to sell a commercial here for Mike and Travis, but I'm telling you, after Mike and Travis and I, actually a couple different conversations, I probably have a few hours of conversation under our belt just on this. There's so many things that I didn't realize about this, honestly, that I think wasn't really important for people to understand. And I know you guys, I think we're on Charlie's channel talking a little bit about it too at that point. But I thought, you know what, it seemed pretty important to Ricky, myself, and all that we really discussed this in further detail And so people really start to understand what this is. You know, half the time people put stuff on their counties because somebody said, "Oh, just do this," and you just throw something there with no regard for what.
So it's a gamble. You're gambling, and
Yeah, and that's the biggest struggle with this, you know, is when I turn on YouTube and you go and search for videos of, you know, treating bees with OA vaporization. Look at how many videos are out there and look at the products, you know, some of the stuff they were using, you know, and this was before our stuff, you know, I mean,
Right.
but look at some of the, and how they tell you to do it and some of that. And it's just like, wow, you know, it's kind of gutsy, I think, too, with it, with the way the regulations are. I mean, if the EPA ever decided to, you know, hire and do an enforcement, holy moly, all the stuff that's on YouTube, they're being.
I just found out they did fine Florida Labs $98,000.
Oh boy.
Wow.
98,000 that they just paid. It's, you can go on the EPA's website. If you look, you can find it. And I can give Tom that information. I have it in my phone. But I didn't even know it happened until my consultant happened to mention it to me. Asked me if I knew anything about Florida. I said, yeah, I've heard about a lot about them. Why? And he says, they just got fined $98,000 back in March of 24.
Yeah,
For selling illegal oxalic acid to beekeepers.
That's crazy.
It's not, I mean, they don't have to go through what we do. And I'm telling you, you just never know. You can think, well, I've done it for years, and I did it for years. I've done it, but I didn't realize, I don't know what went in my hive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But now I know. When I'm using mine, I know what's going in.
I don't know if anybody's ever experienced it or not, but I've heard people talking, and I had a woman say, you know, I treated my bees with oxalic acid, and like the next day they absconded.
Yeah.
And she was telling about that, and
from Wisconsin.
and I was like, yeah, you know, I mean, depending on what kind of OA that was and what that could have been, some kind of impurity. It's hard to tell. I mean, oxalic acid also, if it's stored and open, you know, if you got a supplier that supplies OA and chlorine and different chemicals, if that's open space, you know, OA is absorbent, so it's giving off and putting on. So if you got chlorine or other chemicals in a facility, it could be drawing in, you know, and I know chlorine, you get chlorine during a beehive, they will take off. and that very well could have been chlorine in her oxalic acid, because
a lot of those companies carry chlorine for pool chemicals.
When we were doing some of our, you know, original testing and making tablets, buckets, and just using, you know, just whatever we could find in 5-gallon buckets, just to make, you know, trying to make our tablet. And we ordered this bucket, came, pulled the lid off of it, and you would have bet a paycheck that you just opened up a bucket of chlorine. I mean, chlorine hit you in the face so hard, and it was, you know, oxalic acid, but it's still
here. I got it down there with the lid back on the way it was.
We kept it just because
I kept it.
It's it's those straight up pool chlorine, and that was sold by a company,
Dawn SCI.
Dawn SCI, which is out of Florida,
Miami, Florida,
and
they sell pool chemicals. They sell pool chemicals and oxalic acid, and amongst other chemicals.
That's really interesting to hear that, how it'll absorb, but it'll off gas, but it'll also
If you got a warehouse and it's all on pallets sitting in there next to each other, oxalic acid, it'll absorb moisture. It'll give up moisture if it's open, and it could very well happen, because a lot of oxalic acid imported from China comes in like a metric ton bag, just one bag. It's a huge white bag,
big super sack,
and they just put it in these warehouses. Well, maybe they dump it in bins and fill 55-pound bags. I don't know what they do with it, but that kind of stuff, who knows what it's absorbed in its past, you know, and give up but it could absorb. I don't know what it can absorb, but ours has to be tracked where it was made, where it's been, all that stuff. I have to have all that stuff.
And it doesn't come from China.
No, ours does not come from China.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had China stuff, and no.
Yeah, we tried some early on.
Most of your Amazon stuff is China. I'll tell you that too.
No surprise there.
They're all repackaged China stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you guys to be able to continue to grow, and hopefully people will start bringing stuff back home a little bit here, and focusing some time, effort, and energy on the guys here on this big chunk of ground that actually put the investment into us. Like you said early on, I mean, call it an infomercial, call it what you want, but at the end of the day, these are facts about oxalic acid, the uses, what all it takes to bring this stuff to pass the EPA. I mean, this is not some easy thing to accomplish. Like he's talking about accountability. This all takes money, and I mean, if we're going to have American companies here bringing good products to us and trying to save us money, I mean, this is just what it's going to take. That's all there is to it. Okay. I know Mike, Travis, both. I mean, these guys are for us. So, looking forward to you guys.
I was planning on keeping up with the chat, but my phone died before we even got started.
Sounds like me.
I had it set up here so I could watch what people were saying and asking, and that went down the tubes. It's like that bad battery in the parking lot for Tom and Melissa there. It happened to me right here.
Well, hey, I got Mike, Travis. I'm just curious, how many colonies do you guys have that you guys are able to run yourselves?
We went into winter with 42, and right now I think I've lost 5.
Okay.
And I'm surprised. I've never lost that percentage of bees in the last 4 or 5 years, but we had the worst drought in history in my part of Ohio last year.
Yeah.
I had to feed my bees more than any. And at my house, I had 3 die there this winter, and 1 I know for sure. I didn't have time to go through the other 2, but the 1 definitely starved to death. They had no stores. All the food I gave them was gone. I couldn't believe it.
I don't think we experienced the exact same drought that you guys did up in Ohio, because I heard Greg Burns talking about it too. The worst in history that they've ever had on paper, basically.
My farm pond's still 5 foot low.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, we didn't
It's over
experience
now, but it's 5 foot low.
we experienced a definite drought, not quite like you guys did, and I had to feed the heck out of a lot of my bees too. I mean, a lot of sugar syrup that we pumped throughout the I'm talking anywhere from probably 5 to as much as 9 gallons per colony that I put on, not all, but a lot of my colonies.
Yeah.
And it was expensive to do that, right? But again, bees can't survive, without that sucrose. So, I mean, it's just a necessary evil. Hopefully this year is a little bit more reasonable, and some of the highs and lows are kind of evened out a little bit. But you know what? There are no guarantees with Mother Nature, right? So I don't know. For me, my losses. So, I hear about these commercial operators and other people talking about huge, big, heavy losses. And for me, the only ones that I've experienced so far on most of my robust colonies seem to be pretty good. Like I very, very little loss on anything. But the ones that I experienced heavy loss from, I would say, and I actually put the blame on myself for this, is I felt like if some of these late season nukes that I had built, because it was so dry, if I would have kept feeding those nucleus colonies and getting the numbers up a little higher to a larger number, they would have overwintered this really extreme, harsh January that we all, pretty much most of the country just went through, that cold air dipped all the way down south into Florida and Texas and all those southern states. And I think that my clusters on a quote unquote normal year here in Missouri probably would have been fine. But I think that because it was extreme cold for such a long duration of time, I don't think that the clusters were big enough to weather that sort of cold spell here. And, again, I put the blame on myself. If I'd have done a few things differently, I think that I would have been in better shape. But, you live, you learn. It's a lesson I won't forget. And I'll work toward a different goal here this next year moving forward. But I would say so far I'm not experiencing quite the loss rate that some of these guys are, these big guys are talking about it, thankfully. So, and I think JW down there actually is doing pretty good for himself with his bees, actually, right?
Yeah, he's batting 100.
I think we all need to take lessons from that man down there.
He's got the
Yeah.
sunshine.
I think he's sleeping in his chair.
Well, Tom and Ricky, if anybody got any questions, I can't see the chat. So if no one has any questions, we'll get out of your hair here and let you guys go on about normal things.
Oh, this is normal things, guys.
Yeah, this is normal.
I seen Vincent made a comment about buying our product from now on. Yeah, we appreciate all the support, and I mean it's overwhelming. And for these opportunities to talk to people and let people hear what we have to say and the differences in OA, I think is pretty important too. And to understand it. And I mean, and they can look stuff up, Google research, and and they'll find, because I got into a thing our first year when we launched it at Nobby, not this past Nobby, but the year before is when we launched our product at Nobby in 24. And this guy came up and I was explaining the difference, and he didn't want no part of it. And he just wouldn't listen, and just, he wanted to argue. He said, Florida Labs, that's laboratory grade oxalic acid. I said, sir, he said, Florida Labs is just a very good marketing brand name. I mean, if you put a laboratory anything on your name, yeah, that sounds pretty professional and high grade, but
they're not a laboratory.
It's just a name. It's not a laboratory. They're packaged, from who knows what kind of, industrial cleaner OA, and and was just explaining the differences in the impurities.
Mm-hmm.
He did not want to hear that. He didn't. And,
well, doesn't Florida Lab mainly focus on creams and other things of that nature?
Yeah, it's usually facial creams and things like that.
Okay, I thought I read that.
They're just a warehouse. If you look at a Google map, they're just a warehouse out in the middle of nowhere. It's not a laboratory of any kind.
Yeah, if you look it up, they sell all kinds of different chemicals. I mean, they don't just sell OA. It's
they picked up on it back when the USDA registered oxalic acid. What was it, 2018, 17 or 18 when they first did that? They just jumped on the bandwagon real quick, thinking oxalic acid. Hey, we got some, and I think they just got to the beekeepers, and beekeepers just.
And I don't think it was
Florida Labs.
I don't think it was made real clear, back when it came popular in the U.S. and the USDA did that.
Everybody was just clamoring to get
some. They
some.
just seen that OA, we can now use oxalic acid on our bees, and it was just kind of a free for all to run out and find, oxalic acid, whether it was the hardware wood bleach or, something else. That was just, they didn't realize that it had to be an approved, and there was back then only one approved oxalic acid, which the USDA owned. Brushy Mountain sold it.
Apiboxal.
And then Apiboxal,
they were distributors for
the USDA.
They were
distributors for it for the USDA. But then when the USDA said, hey, we're a government agency, we don't want to be an oxalic acid business. Well, right when we were doing our studying and doing our thing to come out with our product, the USDA give away the registration. And since Apiboxal was a distributor for them, they got to take the USDA's registration over.
Yeah.
And that was right at the same time we was going through our 18-month process to get registered. We just missed the boat, or we could have, been been the
That would have been nice.
yeah, we could have took over the USDA's registration. That might have saved us a bunch of money,
Yeah.
right off the get go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
and I think
anyway,
the point of this chat here tonight for anybody that might be, wondering about it is I was more asking Mike and Travis really to describe to us about what all it takes to use a treatment, what that treatment is like, because I'll be honest, again, I've been beekeeping for 8 years, and there's a lot of this information I had not heard, and I thought it was prudent and something that people really needed to understand and realize, what these products are that we're putting into hives, what they're looking like, what they can do, and everything that's there. You can even ask Mike and Travis. They understand even that oxalic acid is not, for everybody's regimen. That may not be what you're going to use 100% of the time. I mean, even oxalic acid has its limitations of what it can do. I'm still using myself anyway, and this has its limitations too. And there's a lot of things I don't like about it. Is the thymol treatments, with Apigard. And man, I'll tell you, the last year I had some issues with that myself. But at the time I'm putting it on, it can be a little bit hard on the bees, and particularly the queen and her laying patterns and things like that. But I also know that maybe oxalic acid is not the best tool in my toolbox at that point in time, for that. So again, that's why I'm using, I use the 2 different treatments, and by and large, I've actually had pretty good success. Not quite the JW Irwin experience here that he's had this year, but with minimal loss. And I'm just going to hang out with that guy a little bit, and I'm hoping that he'll teach me some more.
I want to bring up something since you brought up thymol.
Yeah.
If you use thymol and oxalic acid, try to use your oxalic acid first.
Yeah.
Then give it, 2 or 3 days.
You went silent again.
We lost your microphone, Mike.
I heard it go off.
There you go. You're on now.
Back.
You're back.
If you would use the thymol and it's still lingering in your hive, then put oxalic acid in, you could have a reaction that could hurt your bees.
Yeah.
There's a chemical reaction we hear, like I think I heard Bob Benny put something out on that.
He has a video on that specifically, actually.
That it could hurt your bees. And a lot of people I don't know how many people are using those Appy tablets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got those in your hive, you do not want to use oxalic acid while those are in there.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you want to take them out and wait a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
Yeah.
What
That's
the time is for that to clear out.
that actually
Thymol
sounds
does stay in your stuff a while. It hangs around a while.
That makes me wonder though about the fondant patties, the Hive Alive fondant patties.
Well, they say there's not enough in there to harm.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what we've heard since we talked about that.
Okay.
That there's not enough in the Hive Alive products to cause that reaction.
Okay.
Well,
I
I can
was
tell you
myself because I use Hive Alive products.
Yeah. Us
Me
too.
too.
Us too. So it was like,
Especially this year, I got fondant on them.
Uh-huh.
last
I've
year,
never used fondant in my life until this year.
last year I had a bunch of those fondant patties on, and I treated with oxalic acid vapor a couple different times throughout the winter, and I didn't experience. I mean, I had a little bit, a very small percentage of loss, but not much.
Yeah.
So-
The Appy tablet, the main ingredient is thymol.
Okay.
And
So that
it's
would
pretty
make
strong.
sense
You
why
can
there would
smell
be
it.
yeah.
I've never had one in my hand, but people tell me you can smell it strong.
So that would make sense why there would be a reaction between the two
So
then.
you could harm your bees
Yeah.
if you got those in there and try oxalic acid. So you want to take them out before you do that. And
Yeah.
I'd wait at least a week or two before you treated with oxalic acid if you've had those in your hive.
Yeah. Good call.
Now, Mike and Travis, do you guys just try to use your OA treatments for the most part, or do you every once in a while try different treatments that you
I haven't
like?
since we've been making started with my tablets way back. I want to say 21, maybe even before that. That's all I've used. At first, I was just messing around, and then this is what it turned into. And I want to use our products that, we keep doing different things, changing things, experimenting this and that. And I just want to make sure we're on top that we're killing mites with our product. And I've experienced until this year, the last 3 years before this, I lost one hive 3 years in a row. This would be my worst year, and it's not. I mean, everybody wants to say it's not mites. Could be. You can always get a mite bomb in the fall of the year. You can get blasted, and you think, well, I treated in December. I should have took care of that. Well, your bees got sick when they got bombed out there in September. You just didn't know it. You thought you were good, and because you treated in August and everything was good, and then in the fall, when especially around here, we got this past fall, we had nothing for food. We rely on goldenrod, wing stem, and aster.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff didn't last 2 weeks here, and I had tubs out feeding bees and everything else, and I'm sure they could have went and robbed out a dead hive in the woods somewhere and brought home a bunch of mites. It could have been. It could be mites, but I know one of my losses of my 4 or 5 hives that I've lost, one is definitely starvation. The other 2 I know is not starvation. It's something else. And I'm thinking it was Nosema. I saw signs of that, which I haven't had for years. I haven't even had. When I did, it was very, very light problem.
Mm-hmm.
This looked bad. It looked like I had something bad going on.
Yeah.
It looked like a hive or 2. It looked like rained on top of the hives.
No kidding.
Spots. I never see anything like it. So I don't know what that's about. And not all the hives there were dead. Just 2 out of like 6. But they had the yellow spots on all over the top of the hives. Like
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that myself in years either. I've seen it on a couple colonies when I was a newer beekeeper.
Yeah, I never.
And I'm not seeing it's some magical thing that I've done either direction. I feel like
I asked an old guy, and he asked me if I was feeding sugar bricks, and I said, "You ain't kidding. I fed sugar bricks." And he said, "That'll cause it. Sometimes
Really?
that'll cause it." But I had a little bit of vinegar in mine that I made, and I put like some honeybee healthy, a little bit of that in it.
Mm-hmm.
In the bricks that I made. We made them at the bee club, and I don't know if that would cause that bad a nosema or not. I don't know. I've never had it. This has been a weird year.
Yeah. Oh man, that's for sure. Weather-wise, from spring till summer, through fall, coming into winter, it's definitely been an odd one. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be looking forward to somewhat of a quote unquote normal year.
Yeah.
Are your temperatures dropping down again on Monday?
Yeah. It was actually cold here today. It didn't get up to more than like 27 at the high. We had some snow yesterday. It didn't quite hit as hard as what we were supposed to get. They were calling for anywhere between 1 and 5 inches of snow, and I think we probably got half to 3/4 of an inch dusting, and basically all of our pre-treatments we put down on the subdivisions and parking lots handled it. We didn't have to do anything else beyond that, which we were thinking it was going to take a couple different ones. But so that passed us by, and then now moving forward, I think we're going to get a little warm up.
Yep.
I don't know if it's tomorrow or Saturday, and then get cold again throughout the entire next week and not bounce back up again until the weekend. So
I think we're supposed to get cold next week, really cold. Then I think that's going to be it.
I wouldn't mind, hanging in the 40s somewhere, during the day, maybe overnight lows somewhere down in the mid 30s would be kind of a nice transition. I always worry about, and I don't know if this is the same thing for you guys, but here in Missouri, it's like we get this bipolar weather that bounces around in the early spring that just can get downright stupid. And I feel like it causes the bees a lot of undue stress. They're unclustering and flying at 70 degrees one day, and next thing you know, the temperatures can change within 12 to 24 hours, and it can get down to 20 degrees again and hang there for a few days and then maybe get warm again. And I feel like all this tight clustering and unclustering of the bees really causes a lot of undue stress on them, especially at the time of year when they've been cooped up for a while and there hasn't been any fresh incoming nectar nor any fresh proteins or pollen sources, and I don't know. I just feel like it's really, really difficult on them come the early spring months.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. 85 yesterday, 42 tonight.
I know
Holy,
he's
that's
bragging
unfair,
now.
dude.
That guy's just bragging.
I'd like
Yeah,
to
he's
have a
always
little bit of
I
that.
just like to have the 42 for a few days. I can get in my bees and see how they're doing.
Yep.
Well, guys, we're going to call it there. I do want to thank Mike and Travis for coming on and talking about their product. And I think these small vendors, like them, that's kind of created something new. These are the people we really need to lift up, try to use their products, and because they've really tried to do some good research, and they're trying to help the bee community out. They're not only trying to sell a product, but they're trying to help you out by giving you good information. And that's people we need out there that are pushing the envelope. Let's find something new for the bees, and let's keep these bees going, and be like JW down there, and have 100% with no loss.
Yeah.
So that's what we're all striving for. If you can get your bees through winter, man, that's a blessing in itself.
That's right.
So, but anyway, Mike and Travis, you guys are awesome, and for all you guys in the chat, you guys are always awesome. And until next time, we'll see you on the Bee Connection. God bless.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having us.
Thank you.
You
Good
guys.
night, everybody.